By December 1944, with the Russians driving through Poland toward Berlin and the British and Americans advancing toward the Rhine, the Allied commanders assumed it was just a matter of time before the once mighty German Wehrmacht collapsed. But Hitler had one more surprise in store and chose the quiet Ardennes sector of Belgium for Germany's last desperate gamble. Their objective was the port city of Antwerp. Reaching it would effectively drive a wedge between the British and American forces. The Germans launched their offensive on December 16th, and by the 21st had Bastogne, a strategic crossroad, completely surrounded. The question now was whether a few thousand paratroopers from the 101st Airborne could survive the Germans' relentless onslaught. When 18-year-old Vincent Speranza saw a parachute demonstration at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, he knew immediately the Airborne was for him. Vince arrived in Europe in November 1944 and was assigned to the 101st Airborne Division, which was still licking its wounds after the D-Day and Market Garden operations. Within weeks, the 101st found itself besieged and freezing in Bastogne. Speranza was called on to serve as a runner, shuttling messages between the front lines and the city of Bastogne.
Well, one time, I guess it was 4 or 5 days into the battle when we were already surrounded and cut off, he sent me back at night, late evening, but it was already dark, and so on. And the moon was out. And it must have been a full moon because it was bright as day, the snow and the moon and so on, very bright. And I had picked up a bunch of maps that Captain Hilton wanted me to bring back. My rifle is slung over my shoulder as I'm carrying the maps, and I'm walking the road. And out of the corner of my eye, I see like 4 or 5 white shapes just sink down into the snow. And of course my heart jumped. We had been warned about that the Germans were infiltrating our lines, and my heart jumped, as I said, and there was an abandoned Jeep turned over in a ditch right alongside the road there. Just kept walking as though nothing happened, and I walked behind that Jeep and unslung my rifle. Now, it's hard to see at night, but this was almost as bright as daylight. It's hard to see that peep sight. But I was one of the guys who had come across a man who had one of those jeweler's files, and a lot of us made the hole in the peep sight of our rifle bigger so that even in poor light conditions you could see a lot better. Of course, it's not as accurate, but in my opinion, it saved my life that night, because when I got behind that Jeep and unslung the rifle, and they hadn't moved, I guess they figured that they hadn't been seen, but then I just started popping them off. And I got 4. One of them got away, ran up and ran in the woods, and I just picked up my maps, then dropped them again, grabbed my rifle, and took off down the road.
The defenders of Bastogne held, despite overwhelming odds, until a tank column from Patton's Third Army broke through the German lines to relieve them on December 26th. Their stubborn defense was the 101st Division's proudest moment and the stuff of legend to this day.